chance encounter. The champagne tasted expensive, but Priya Sharma couldn't enjoy it. Her mind was still replaying the disastrous presentation where her boss had taken credit for her algorithmic breakthrough. 6 months of work, stolen in 6 minutes, of corporate theater. Another. A voice beside her. Priya glanced up to see a man in simple black attire holding a tray. Unlike the other servers at the San Francisco Tech Foundation Gala, he wore no bow tie, just a black button-up with rolled sleeves revealing forearms, marked with what looked like grease stains. His beard was unkempt, and his hair pulled back. In a messy bun, God, yes, she sighed, exchanging her empty glass for a full one. Do you ever have days when you wonder if your entire career is just feeding someone else's success? The man's eyebrows rose slightly, more often than you might think. Something about his calm demeanor made Priya continue. I developed a predictive algorithm that could revolutionize supply chain management. Today, my boss presented it to the board as his own creation. That's unfortunate, the man said, setting his tray down and leaning against the balcony railing beside her. What will you do? Quit, obviously, but not before I secure something better. Priya took another sip. I've applied to Nexus Innovations. Their founder, Dominic Rivera, is supposedly brilliant but eccentric. Rumor has it he sometimes works incognito among his employees to understand operations from the ground up. The man's lips curved slightly. Interesting approach. It's ridiculous, Priya countered. If you're smart enough to build a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, you should be smart enough to interpret employee feedback without the undercover theatrics. Perhaps he values authenticity. People behave differently around wealth and power. Priya laughed. It's like how you're stuck serving drinks to people who probably earn less in a year than what they're wearing tonight. His expression remained neutral. This isn't my usual role. Well, for what it's worth, you're doing great. Priya finished her champagne. Better than some of these tech executives who couldn't code their way out of a paper bag. Strong words. From someone seeking employment from such executives, he remarked. I don't need them. They need me. Priya straightened her emerald cocktail dress. My algorithm speaks for itself. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, offering it to her. Perhaps you should speak directly to Rivera then. Priya accepted the card, expecting to see catering information. Instead, it was blank, except for a phone number. What's this? A direct line for when you're ready to present your algorithm? To someone who might appreciate it properly. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted across the ballroom. The event organizer was frantically searching for someone. Mr. Rivera? Has anyone seen Dominic Rivera? The man beside Priya checked his watch. Looks like my break is over. He picked up his tray and gave her a small nod. Good luck with your career, Miss Sharma. As he walked away, Priya froze, staring at the card in her hand, and then back at the retreating figure as understanding dawned. The server wasn't a server at all. She had just spent 10 minutes criticizing Dominic Rivera, too. His face? The proposition 2 weeks later, Priya sat in the sleek waiting area of Nexus Innovations headquarters, mentally rehearsing her presentation. After her mortifying encounter at the gala, she had debated using Rivera's card, but ultimately submitted her application through regular channels. To her surprise, she'd received an interview request within days. The receptionist's voice broke her concentration. Ms. Sharma, ready for you in boardroom C? Priya smoothed her charcoal pantsuit and gathered her portfolio. The corridor leading to the boardroom was lined with glass walls, showcasing teams of engineers and designers working in collaborative spaces. Nexus's reputation for innovation was evident in every detail of its architecture. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the boardroom door. Seated at the head of the table was Dominic Rivera, clean-shaven, hair professionally styled, wearing an impeccably tailored navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His dark eyes met hers with unmistakable recognition. Double quotes, Miss Sharma, he said, rising. Welcome to Nexus. 4 other executives sat around the table, but Priya barely registered their presence. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she took the offered seat. Before we begin, Dominic said, I'd like to address our previous meeting. One of the executives looked confused. You've met before? Briefly, Dominic replied. Ms. Sharma provided some candid feedback about my management style. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Priya's mouth went dry. Mr. Rivera, I didn't know he raised a hand. Please, call me Dominic. And there's no need to apologize for honesty. In fact, it's precisely what caught my attention. Turned to his colleagues. I'll be conducting this interview personally. You're all dismissed. After they filed out, Dominic pressed a button that frosted the glass walls, providing privacy. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with the same intensity she remembered from the gala. Your algorithm, he said finally. Walk me through it. For the next 40 minutes, Priya explained her innovation and AI-driven system that could predict supply chain disruptions weeks before traditional methods. Dominic listened intently, asking pointed questions that revealed his deep understanding of both the technical and business implications. When she finished, he nodded thoughtfully. Impressive. Even more so considering your current employer failed to recognize its potential. They recognized it, Priya said bitterly. They just decided to recognize it as their own. Which brings us to why you're here. Dominic stood and walked to the window overlooking San Francisco Bay. I'm not offering you a job, Ms. Sharma. Priya's stomach sank. I see. I'm offering you an opportunity. He turned back to face her. 3 months. I want you to work directly with me on a special project building an entirely new division around your algorithm. You'll have full creative control, resources beyond what most startups dream of, and direct access to me whenever needed. And after 3 months, if successful, you'll head the division as Chief Innovation Officer with equity in the subsidiary we'll create around it. Priya's mind raced. That's extremely generous. It comes with conditions, Dominic warned. First, this remains confidential. Second, you report only to me. And third, his expression hardened slightly. You will be challenged in ways that extend far beyond technical expertise. I need to know if you can lead, not just create. Why me? Priya asked. You could hire dozens of qualified candidates without the baggage of our unfortunate first impression. Dominic's lips curved into the same subtle smile she'd seen at the gala, because none of them would tell a billionaire to his face that his methods are ridiculous. That kind of honesty is rare and valuable. He extended his hand. So, Ms. Sharma, do we have a deal? Priya hesitated only briefly before grasping his hand. When do I start? You already have. Dominic handed her a security badge with her photo already printed on it. Your team is waiting in Lab 7. They've been told you're my personal selection for project lead. The rest is up to you. As Priya left the boardroom, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made either the best decision of her career, the most dangerous one. Testing boundaries 3 weeks into Project Cassandra. Dominic had named it. Priya found herself working harder than she ever had before. Her team 5 brilliant but skeptical engineers had initially questioned her authority. She couldn't blame them. She'd appeared out of nowhere with unprecedented access to the company's founder. You're overthinking it, Priya muttered to herself as she stared at the code on her screen. It was 2 a.m., and she was alone in the lab trying to solve a critical flaw in the algorithm's predictive modeling. I've been told that's one of my worst habits, too. Priya startled at Dominic's voice. He'd stood in the doorway, casually dressed in jeans and a black sweater, holding 2 cups of coffee. Do you always creep up on your employees in the middle of the night? She asked, accepting the offered coffee. Only the ones who refuse to go home. He pulled up a chair beside her. Talk me through the problem. For the next hour, they worked, side by side, debugging and restructuring code. Dominic's technical skills were extraordinary, not just theoretical understanding, but practical, elegant solutions that spoke of years spent in the trenches of software development. Where did you learn to code like this? Priya asked as they finally solved the issue. Self-taught, mostly. Before I was worth billions, I was just a kid with a laptop in a garage apartment. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Money changers. How people see you, not who you are. Something in his tone made Priya look at him more carefully. Is that why you were dressed as a server at the gala? Is to see how people treat you when they don't know you're rich? Dominic paused, then closed. The laptop. Partly. There's also something liberating about anonymity. Until someone comes along and insults your business practices to your face, Priya said with a grimace. He laughed, a genuine sound she hadn't heard from him before. That was actually refreshing. What? Most people either want something from me, or are too intimidated to speak freely. Their eyes met, and Priya felt a flutter of something dangerous. She quickly changed the subject. The team is still resistant to the implementation strategy. And what are you going to do about it? I need to convince them. Tomorrow, I'm restructuring our approach and reassigning roles based on strengths rather than seniority. Dominic nodded approvingly. They won't like it. They don't have to like it, they have to respect it. The next day was even more challenging than Priya had anticipated. Her team openly questioned her decisions, particularly Marcus, the senior developer who had expected to lead the project himself. You're dismantling months of work on the word of someone who's been here 3 weeks, Marcus argued during their team meeting. I'm refining our approach based on data, Priya countered, displaying analytics that supported her strategy. We're building something revolutionary, not just iterating on the familiar. And you just happen to have Dominic Rivera's ear, another team member muttered. Priya felt her temper flare. I have his attention because my ideas work. If yours did too, maybe you would as well. The room fell silent. Priya continued outlining her plan, assigning each person tasks that aligned with their strengths while challenging their limitations. By the end of the meeting, reluctant respect had replaced open hostility. Later that afternoon, she found a note on her desk. Dinner. 8 p.m., we need to discuss your progress, was signed simply D. When she arrived at the address Inn Unpretentious Bistro in North Beach, Dominic was already waiting at a corner table. Your team filed a complaint against you today, he said. Without preamble, as she sat down, Priya felt her stomach drop. On what grounds? Aggressive management style. Disregard for established protocols. He studied her reaction. Does that surprise you? No, she admitted. I knew they'd push back, and yet you proceeded anyway. The project is more important than hurt feelings. Priya met his gaze steadily. Was I wrong? A slow smile spread across Dominic's face. Not at all. In fact, you've just passed another test. As understanding dawned, Priya leaned forward. You're deliberately making this difficult, aren't you? The resistant team, the impossible deadlines, the late-night problems, they're all part of your evaluation. Leadership isn't tested when everything goes smoothly, Dominic replied, pouring her a glass of wine. It's forged in conflict and crisis. And what happens when I figure out all your tests? Dominic's eyes held a challenge that made her pulse quicken. Then I'll have to get more creative, won't I? Unexpected truth too. Months into Project Cassandra, Priya had transformed both the algorithm and her team. What began as resistance had evolved into cohesion as they collectively pushed the boundaries of what the technology could achieve. Marcus had become one of her strongest allies after she'd trusted him with a critical component that showcased his expertise. The prototype was nearly complete, with early tests showing a 92% accuracy rate in predicting supply chain disruptions, far exceeding their initial targets. Priya should have been celebrating, but something kept nagging at her. Dominic had become increasingly involved in the daily operations, often spending entire afternoons in the lab. Their working relationship had developed an unmistakable undercurrent of attraction that both carefully avoided acknowledging, but there was something else: occasional comments and questions that suggested he knew more about her background than her resume revealed. On a rainy Thursday evening, Priya was reviewing security protocols when Dominic appeared at her office door. I need you to come with me, he said, his expression unusually serious. He led her to his private elevator, which ascended to the penthouse level of the Nexus building. The space was minimalist, more functional workspace than luxury accommodation. With floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the storm-swept city, you've exceeded every expectation, Dominic said, gesturing for her to sit on one of the sleek sofas. The algorithm is more powerful than even I anticipated. Now why do you look concerned rather than pleased? Dominic poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handing one to Priya before sitting across from her. Because there's something I haven't told you about why I selected you for this project. Priya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain lashing against the windows. I'm listening. 3 years ago, a smaller version of your algorithm was submitted to Nexus as part of a university competition. It showed extraordinary promise, but was ultimately rejected because it was deemed too theoretical. Priya froze. That's impossible. I never submitted my work to any competition. You didn't, Dominic agreed. But your former research partner, Ethan Montgomery, did, under his name alone. The glass nearly slipped from Priya's fingers. Ethan had been her collaborator during her doctorate program and briefly more, till he'd abruptly transferred to another university. She'd abandoned that early version of the algorithm after his departure, starting fresh at her corporate position.
Oh.
Do you know about Ethan? Because after rejecting his submission, I tracked the original research. It led to your doctoral papers, which showed the foundational work that Ethan had built upon without attribution. Dominic's expression hardened. I recognize intellectual theft when I see it, Priya. I've experienced it myself. Is that why you were at the gala? To find me? Dominic nodded. The Tech Foundation event always attracts talent from across the industry. When I saw your name on the guest list, I decided to observe you without the complications of my identity. I wanted to understand who you were beyond your brilliant mind. And my complaints about my boss stealing my work sealed the deal, Priya said, understanding dawning. You saw history repeating itself. With one crucial difference. Dominic leaned forward. This time, I was in a position to do something about it. So this project, my position, it's all been some sort of justice mission for you. It started that way, he admitted. But it became something more. Your innovation extended far beyond what I'd seen in the original research. And you, Priya, hesitated. You've become more than just a brilliant mind I wanted to rescue from obscurity. The implication hung between them, charged with possibilities neither had acknowledged until now. What happens when the 3 months are up? Priya asked quietly. It depends entirely on you. Dominic set down his glass. The CIO position is yours regardless. You've more than earned it. But there's another proposition I'd like to discuss, one completely separate from your professional role here. Outside, lightning illuminated the sky, casting momentary shadows. Across his features, I never mix business with pleasure, Priya said carefully. Neither do I. Dominic's gaze was intense, which is why we need to decide what matters more. New beginnings, the launch of Nexus Predictive Solutions, the subsidiary built around Nudizit project, Cassandra-dominated technology headlines across every major publication. Standing on the stage beside Dominic as he introduced her as the chief innovation, Officer Priya felt a surreal sense of vindication. In the front row, her former boss shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The invitation had been Dominic's idea. Sometimes success is the best response to theft. He'd said with that enigmatic smile that still made her heart race. After the presentation, as executives and investors crowded around with congratulations, Priya slipped away to the rooftop garden that had become her thinking space over the past months. The San Francisco skyline glittered in the dusk. So different from the rainy night when Dominic had revealed the truth about her past. Hiding from your admirers? Dominic's voice came from behind her, just catching my breath. She turned to face him. Your board members are already talking acquisition offers. Apparently, several logistics conglomerates are desperate to implement our system. Our system, Dominic repeated with emphasis. Not my system. Not Nexus's system. Yours and mine. The distinction wasn't lost on Priya. After his revelation about Ethan, they had made a conscious decision to maintain professional boundaries until the project launched.
Ow.
The tension between them had only intensified with each passing day of forced distance. The 3 months are up, she said quietly. So they are. Dominic moved closer, the subtle scent of his cologne mingling with the evening air, which means several things changed tonight, such as, for starters, I'm no longer your direct supervisor. The subsidiary operates independently, with you reporting to the board of, which I am only one member. Priya smiled. You've been planning this structure from the beginning, haven't you? I planned for contingencies, he admitted. It's what made Nexus successful. And what other contingencies have you planned for, Mr. Rivera? Instead of answering, Dominic reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. This isn't what you think, he said quickly, noticing her expression. Open it. Inside was a keycard, similar to the security badge she'd been given on her first day, but with distinctive platinum edging. What's this for? Freedom, Dominic said simply. It's access to the Nexus private jet. I'm taking a sabbatical 3 months traveling to our international offices. I'd like you to join me, not as a colleague, but as my companion. Priya raised an eyebrow. It's quite presumptuous, is it? His confidence faltered slightly. Perhaps I've misread the situation. You haven't, she assured him, stepping closer. But 3 months ago, you offered me a professional challenge. If you're offering a personal one now, you should know I have conditions of my own. I'm listening. Complete equality. In business and in life. I won't be the brilliant woman behind the successful man. I'll be successful in my own right, standing beside you. I wouldn't want it any other way, Dominic said softly. And no more tests or secrets. Priya held his gaze firmly. We've both had enough of those to last a lifetime. Dominic took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Agreed. Though, I should warn you, I'm considerably less complicated as a partner than as a boss. I find that hard to believe, Priya laughed. But the sound caught in her throat as he closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was nothing like she had. Imagine during those long nights in the lab it was better, at the culmination of a journey, but the beginning of one. When they finally broke apart, city lights seemed to shimmer more brightly around them. Below, the launch party continued, celebrating what they had built together professionally. But here, in this moment, they were building something else entirely. So, Dominic asked, do we have a deal, Ms. Sharma? Priya tucked the keycard into her evening bag. We have a beginning, Mr. Rivera. The deal is still being negotiated. His laughter echoed across the rooftop as he pulled her close again. I wouldn't have it any other way.